Welcome, everyone. We are going to begin the webinar on damage repair. Credit toward ICAR knowledge areas can be awarded by completing the class and following the instructions at the end of this presentation. I'm Melissa Joles with RDA Impact. Dennis Beardsley, North American Training Manager for Saint-Gobain, is your presenter today. The presentation will take approximately 30 to 35 minutes, and at the end of the presentation, we will send you a test, which you will need to complete and email back to Dennis with your ICAR information, and we will include instructions with that. We are recording the presentation and will make it available to everyone in attendance today, and if you do have questions, you can type them in the chat box at the bottom right of your screen, and they will be answered during the presentation. Now, I'll turn it over to Dennis.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate it. So I want to talk about damage repair. You have to go through the antitrust, right? The Combines Act. We're not going to talk about pricing or any other collision centers or distributors or anything like that, right? Most of you have heard this for many years, right? We are proudly an ICAR sustaining partner, which means just like this training now, we take care of the costs that you would normally incur for an ICAR training. So reduce training costs, right? As a sustaining partner, reducing school fees, providing safe repairs is the goal, all right? We are dedicated to repairing vehicles right. You can see it right there on the slide, right? We want better train shops, reducing liability and expenses, making happy customers at the end of the day. That's what it's all about. We are part of the Refinish Solutions Group, and a common question is, what is Refinish Solutions Group? What does it mean? All right. What it is we, Saint-Gobain is Norton and Carbureau, right? We are a sandpaper company, right? So, but to be effective out in the field, you have to have more than sandpaper. So you see there, Norton Carborundum, DeVilbiss is our partner. Fuser, American Tape, Hutchins, and Frekla we actually own. So Solar Guard. So let's talk about damage repair. Of course, we talk about safety, part removal, choosing proper tools, recommended standard patterns, preparation for filler, body filler, body glaze, sanding, body filler, and primer. Of course, wear your protective clothing, gloves, mask, eye protection, earplugs, vacuum to be able to reduce that amount of dust that's in the environment. So let's talk about removal of seam sealer, right? There's plenty of ways to do it, right? There's with things like this, or in the picture there, this is just a thinner version of that. I like actually this file belt right here, our Coarse file belt. This is a really effective way for ripping seam sealer off without the smell of spinning the disc too fast and making it burn. This moves a little slower and does a tremendous job of ripping off that seam sealer that you're trying to get without damaging the metal. Removal spot welds. So we want to encourage the removal with a file belt of spot welds, 60 grit, believe it or not. And if the manufacturer says 80 grit, then it's 80 grit, which is right here what I got in my hands. All right. But you want to start with right here with 60 grit, and the whole idea is if you're working with a resistant spot weld that's potentially 22 gauge, we want to make sure we don't come in with too coarse of a grit and don't damage that panel that we're going to weld back onto, the inner panel, if you will. We want to make sure that we use a back and forth motion, right, on that spot weld. And as soon as you visually see it on the bottom, you stop, use a seam buster or some sort of tool. I like that seam buster, and remove that spot weld, and away you go. But again, stay with it 60. I was actually in a shop this week. Oh gosh, I've been using 36 forever. A little too coarse. you're going to potentially damage that good panel that's behind the panel that we're replacing, and we want to make sure we don't do that. And there's a picture of the seam buster. All right. Make sure you remove the damaged panel from the inner. Don't forcibly separate, or it can bend it. You don't want to cause more straightening. Again, prep it, okay, with a 60 or 80 grit, depending on what the manufacturer says to do. And then the new part with 60 or 80 grit. Always follow the OEM procedures. So one of our partners is Hutchins, right? And we've been around for a long, long time. They make really, really good equipment that helps us along with the prep. Been around 72 years, made in the US, right? Some tool types, right? So you see there the Model 2000, that's a straighter inline straight line sander, goes back and forth, right? I first learned on this, we'll just call it many years ago. And that tool still exists to this day, all right? Then we came out with this Orbital Sander. Now this thing's a game changer right here. This can sand body filler and primer, okay? And what it does, and I'm gonna try to cycle it right here. It orbits instead of going back and forth. So when you hand block things, right? When you hand block like that, straight lines, but the orbit, when you have the pneumatic tool, will go like this, right? And it will assist you in getting that job, A, to the correct contour you're looking for, B, it's not gonna have deeper gouges in it versus the straight line. Love the Orbital. So let's talk about different throws with sanders, right? You see 3 different options right there. You see a 5/16, 3/16, and 3/32. The 5/16 has got a wider throw, okay? And that's gonna be a more aggressive cut, 36 to 80 grit. That's where you're gonna be with that. The next one is gonna be your, if you would, your body tex tool of use, your 3/16 throw, the Model 600H. You're gonna be looking for 80 to 400 grit. And then lastly, the 3/32 is gonna be that finer grit, right? Your prep department and your final sand is gonna be your 3/32. That's gonna bring you from 400 to 3,000 grit. Right? Of course, what it counts, you know, Hutchins has 19 active patents, all right? And builds the offset into the housing for superior performance and value, right? We have vacuum tools, as you heard me hit this one, all right? And sitting behind me also. They do a tremendous job of keeping the dust not only out of here, but every shop, tons of shop across the North America. So where do I use, right, the different, you know, make sure that I got the proper tool. So again, 3/8 is 80 grit or coarser, 3/16, 80 to 400, 3/32, 400 to 3,000, all right? And that also can equate to millimeter. So 9 millimeter would be 3/8, 6 would be 3/16, 3 millimeters would be 3/32. Again, the tighter the orbit, the finer the grit, all right? This is a big one. Recommended sanding patterns. I get the pleasure of going out in the field a lot, and there's different ways of folks I see sanding. And really what you should do is almost like a robot, right? 50% overlap, go in those flat surface, all right, and then come back with the overlap, you know, 2 times, and then contour surfaces, you know, go at that angle, okay? And I'm a big fan of using interface pads when I sand, okay? It makes sure that I don't, any sharp edges, I don't rip the coating off of there if I'm just trying to abrade it for a blend area, let's say, I just want to make sure I have a nice interface pad. And you can see my Orbital, I got an interface pad on that, and my manual block. So getting ready for filler, all right? I want to sand the repair area. Obviously, you're gonna pay attention to the filler manufacturer. You're gonna sand the repair area with P graded 80 grit, okay? Create a good feather edge, right? 2 to 2.5 to 4 inches out from the point of damage. So let's talk about P graded. Right here, right here, it says P 80 grit, okay? You want to make sure you follow the paint manufacturer's recommendation. And if they say to use P graded 320 final sand with your filler before priming, then obviously that's what you're going to want to use. You're running into, in the last few years, of manufacturers using non-P graded materials, okay, which can be anything. They can be finer. We find a lot that they're coarser than they're supposed to be, than what this is, and that can create challenges downstream. So if the material has a deeper scratch in it, and then you go and prime on it, you know, every paint manufacturer that you work with is going to say, this is what we want, and it's going to be a P graded indication, and that's what you should be sanding with, nothing coarser. And if you have something coarser and you prime over it, you can potentially have sand scratch swelling. All right. You want to make sure you apply the filler wide enough to ensure that it's level during the sanding process. You want to also apply it in thin coats. I got a quick video of this.
Before a damaged panel can be repaired, the technician needs to prepare by completing the following steps. As always, proper safety equipment should be utilized. Body panel preparation begins with cleaning the damaged area first with soap and water, and then with the appropriate wax and grease remover. Once this is complete, wipe the area dry with a clean cloth. This process removes any potential contaminants from the repair area. Next, remove any coatings from the damaged area with a Norton Vertex Blaze Rapid Blend 3-inch speed lock disc, or in the event of low spots, a Norton Vertex half-inch coarse file belt. With the area cleaned and coatings removed, repair the dent using an industry-accepted method. Once the metal finish is complete, feather edge the surrounding area using a DA sander and Norton Multi-Air Cyclonic P80 grit disc. Once the edges are properly feathered, the repair area is now ready for body filler application.
So like I said, you want to start in thin coats. You don't just want to apply it in one big honking coat there, thin tack coat, and then keep building it from there, okay? Something really important too that I thought about when I was watching the video. If you have aluminum panels, you want to move from the orange disc, which would be for steel. This would be your aluminum option. This is the Vortex disc. This is going to be a little nicer, a scratchable, little easier. It's going to be about a 180 grit, 120 to 180 grit range. And as you fill it up, and away you go. All right. Sanding body fill. You want to obviously block it. Sharper or coarser the paper, flatter the job. That's what we're looking for. So the coarser, either you start with P80 grit or P100 grit, however you do it at your place. Then you want to apply guide coat before and after, right? Just to validate, hey, I know where the low spots are or the high spots, and I don't have any excessive scratches in there that I have to remove, all right, that we can't see, all right? Finish sand the body filler, eliminate any pinholes, low spots, wipe off the debris. If you have a vacuum, great. Go ahead and hit it with the white pad, suck up all the dirt, and away you go. right? Here's a great example. Feather edge filler surrounding it, right? Start with 80 grit, move to 180 grit. You want to move in 100 grit increments when we're talking coarse paper, right? So if we have 80, you want to move to 180. And if you have 280, great. If not, then a 220 option, 320, and then 400. Again, referring to the paint manufacturer's recommendation, what they want, the final scratch before you prime, okay? So you want to make sure that we remove the 80, the 180, the 220, the 320 grit scratch if the manufacturer is looking for final 400 grit scratch. And as you can see there, there's an example of the guide coat. All right. When we start talking about primer masking, all right, you want to reverse mask, which means you don't want to have a hard edge. Right? You want to make sure that you roll the paper, tape the masking paper at least 6 to 12 inches from the repair area, kind of like that 12, and then flip the paper back onto the part. All right. If you're applying plastic, all right, make sure the remainder of the vehicle is covered entirely. Use either 1.5 or 2-inch masking tape to make sure the plastic is sticking to the paper or onto itself. And there's a good example of a primer area with reverse masking. Okay, and I got a quick video for this one.
This is the standard operating procedure for masking. As always, proper safety equipment should be utilized. To protect areas adjacent to the repair from refinish coatings and overspray, proper masking is an important step. The first step to masking is cleaning the area. Always clean with the method recommended by the paint manufacturer. Use a combination of masking paper, plastic, and tape to protect any area where you don't want refinish material. If necessary, use fine line tape in areas where the contour makes it difficult to apply wider tape. Outline the refinish area with Norton Paint Check white poly-coated masking paper. This helps when trying to achieve a good color match, as colored masking paper may impact the appearance during refinishing operations. After outlining the repair area with 1.5-inch masking tape, cover the rest of the vehicle with Norton Blue sheeting. Cover the wheels with Norton Blue Wrap protective plastic wheel maskers. Cut out the area to be sprayed and attach the sheeting along the cut edge to the tape outline using 3/4-inch or 1.5-inch masking tape. With all of the masking applied, double check to ensure that there are no exposed areas that shouldn't be refinished. Following refinishing, remove the masking tape at a 90-degree angle in preparation for final assembly.
And you see that last part there, here, it says Academy by RSG and the YouTube insignia on the upper right. If you go to Academy by RSG, you can look at any of these videos. They're very, very helpful. Please take a look. All right. Primer blocking. Apply guide coat again over the primer, okay? Either in the Revive aerosol or in the dry. And block sand the primed area, you know, whatever. Potentially start with 220, 320, and then that final sand that you need to apply either sealer or you're going to paint directly to it. Again, follow the paint manufacturer's recommendations, all right? And this thing right here, this Hutchins tool, is your new best friend. This thing can really help you a lot with speed, you know, quality, speed, and cost, right? It can help get that done for you efficiently, right? And get that dust into the vacuum versus all over the shop and the car and the technician, right? Reapply, again, put your guide coat back on again, block sand with 400, then reapply guide coat and then sand it with 600. Clean it, what the manufacturer wants you, the paint manufacturer wants you to do, and then you're ready to go into the paint process, okay?
This video reviews the steps for block sanding primer. As always, proper safety equipment should be utilized. Following the application of primer to cover minor surface imperfections, the area is ready for block sanding. Use Revive Dry Guide Coat to help identify high and low spots in the repair area. Next, block sand the area with Norton Nor-Grip Multi-Air Cyclonic Continuous Roll P3 20 grit on the Revive by RSG vacuum block. Areas that are high will have guide coat removed first, and in the areas that are low, guide coat will remain. If additional coats of primer are required, reapply guide coat to identify any remaining high or low areas. When all high and low spots are eliminated, use Norton Nor-Grip Multi-Air Cyclonic Continuous Roll P400 grit to remove any P320 grit sand scratches. In preparation for refinishing, use P600 grit sandpaper to remove any remaining sand scratches. Following cleaning, the repair area is ready for refinishing.
Okay. So, talked about part removal, choosing the proper tools, right? Preparation, or excuse me, sanding patterns, prep for body filler, sanding body filler, and priming for mask. Okay. Questions? Do we have any questions?
We don't have any.
Huh. Well, this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about is this prep piece. The grit rules, utilizing pneumatic tools, where we use for many years have used manual tools. This really helps the shop become more productive. So I hope that helped. If there's no questions, Melissa has sent you the test.
I will.
Will send, pardon me. And the ones that need it, send back to me and I will upload that to iCar.
Okay, I will do that, follow up with everybody, and the instructions will be included. And if you do have any questions for Dennis, you can follow up with him on your own, and we'll be in touch with future training
Excellent, thank you.
webinars and initiatives. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dennis. Everybody have a good day.